are logical. You have to shoot.
I do not want to.
What you want is irrelevant. What you've chosen is at hand.
This assignment was locked February 7th at 11:59 p.m. 2. Paralegal staff. From Supervising Attorney J. Rutherford Bicknance. Re. Cunningham v. KURD Radio. Radio station KURD was running a promotion on August 30, 2019. The promotion involved a KURD disc jockey doing a live mobile broadcast from the radio station's brightly painted van. Throughout the course of the 4-hour broadcast, the KURD van traveled to various mystery locations in the city and gave away $100 cash prizes to the first listener who could locate the van and repeat a previously broadcast winning password to the KURD disc jockey in the van. After each on-air award of prize money, the disc jockey would broadcast clues about the next location where listeners could find the KURD van, and the winning password for the next stop. 18-year-old Evan Ralston was listening to KURD in his car while searching for the KURD van. On the third stop of the promotion, Ralston arrived at the secret location shortly after the KURD van and learned that someone else had already claimed the prize. He decided to follow the van to its next stop and thus be the first to arrive there and claim the prize. Ralston was not the only KURD listener who had decided to follow the van. Investigators believe that in addition to Ralston, 6 other listener vehicles were following the KURD van to its 4th location of the promotion. For several miles the listener vehicles jockeyed for position closest to the KURD van, at times driving dangerously on I-5 through Tacoma. The KURD van left I-5 at the 56th Street off-ramp. Ralston, attempting to follow the van, collided with a vehicle driven by Janet Cunningham, who was not a KURD listener and was not aware of the KURD promotion taking place. The collision forced Ms. Cunningham's vehicle to slam into a guardrail and caused her to sustain life-threatening injuries. Our firm has been hired by Ms. Cunningham to pursue an action against KURD. A claim against Mr. Ralston is being handled by another attorney. I am handling the case against KURD. I am in trial on another matter for the rest of this month and do not have time to address this case. I have a meeting with our client next week and I need to be aware of the law of this case. Please prepare an IRAC memo for me which outlines the claims and defenses involved in the case.
George R. Hoyta Intro to Civil Law March 13, 2022. We are tasked with representing the plaintiff, Mrs. Janet Cunningham, in an action against the radio broadcast station called KURD. We have to prove that by orchestrating a reckless and dangerous radio promotion, that KURD is responsible for the serious physical and mental life-threatening injuries done to her through KURD and their employee disc jockey, Mr. Evan Ralston. To do this, we will explore 3 avenues to present and rest our case. 1. We must prove that KURD was negligent. 2. We must prove that due to that negligence that KURD is strictly liable. 3. We must prove that due to the fact that their neglect, that disc jockey, Mr. Evan Ralston, was an employee acting in the interest of KURD, we have grounds to argue the case of respondeat superior. Negligence. Negligence is the failure to behave with the level of care that someone of ordinary prudence would have exercised under the same circumstance. The 4 elements of negligence are duty, breach, cause, and harm. By failing or ignoring to foresee the imminent danger this reckless promotional campaign would cause by influencing reckless drivers, hungry for KURD's prize money, KURD set the stage for a dangerous and unsafe traffic environment that endangered everyone near their employee, Mr. Evan Ralston, and caused life-threatening injuries to Mrs. Cunningham. In short, if KURD wanted to facilitate a promotional campaign such as this, they had a duty to foresee all possible dangers to the public before setting such campaign into motion. By failing to foresee this obvious danger to the public, KURD breached this duty and caused a hornet's nest of reckless drivers who were hungry for KURD's prize money, that directly caused harm to Mrs. Cunningham, who at the time knew nothing of this dangerous promotional campaign causing direct harm to her person via car collision. Strict liability. Strict liability exists when a defendant is liable for committing an action, regardless of what his/her intent or mental state was when committing the action. KURD, by facilitating this reckless promotional campaign, is strictly liable for the damages done to the plaintiff Mrs. Cunningham in causing this traffic nightmare in the first place. By failing to foresee the obvious danger of this promotional stunt, KURD and Mr. Evan Ralston are responsible for this unfortunate set of circumstances we have before us now. Respondeat superior. Respondeat superior is the legal doctrine according to which an employer is responsible for the actions of his employers performed during the course of their employment. Mr. Evan Ralston is an employee of KURD, and was acting in the interest of his employer, KURD, during the promotional campaign that caused Mrs. Cunningham her serious, life-threatening injuries. That being the case, the legal doctrine of respondeat superior applies here, holding KURD responsible for the actions of their employee, Mr. Evan Ralston, in this tragic case of negligence and strict liability against KURD. RCW 4.22.015. Fault defined. Fault includes acts or omissions, including misuse of a product, that are in any measure negligent or reckless toward the person or property of the actor or others, or that subject a person to strict tort liability or liability on a product liability claim. The term also includes breach of warranty, unreasonable assumption of risk, and unreasonable failure to avoid an injury or to mitigate damages. Legal requirements of causal relation apply both to fault as the basis for liability and to contributory fault. A comparison of fault for any purpose under RCW 4.22.005 through 4.22.060 shall involve consideration of both the nature of the conduct of the parties to the action and the extent of the causal relation between such conduct and the damages. RCW 4.22.005. Effect of contributory fault. In an action based on fault seeking to recover damages for injury or death to person or harm to property, any contributory fault chargeable to the claimant diminishes proportionately the amount awarded as compensatory damages for an injury attributable to the claimant's contributory fault, but does not bar recovery. This rule applies whether or not under prior law the claimant's contributory fault constituted a defense or was disregarded under applicable legal doctrines, such as last clear chance. Conclusion. According to the law and the preponderance of evidence, I believe that KURD hasn't had a leg to stand on in court. In short, we and Mrs. Cunningham can take them to the cleaners. KURD is strictly liable for all damages Mrs. Cunningham has received as a result of this reckless promotional campaign. By failing to foresee the obvious possible dangers, KURD is in fact negligent and liable for Mrs. Cunningham's injuries. Easy money.
Hey, homie, up against the wall. Turn around, turn around.
Man,
Turn
damn.
around.
Fuck, I ain't even do nothing, man.
Whatever.
I don't got nothing, dude.
What's this?
What's what?
Oh, shit. What the fuck is this?
Stop. You do not have to consent to a search. Law enforcement asks you if they can search you. You ought to tell them, I do not consent to a search. If they ask you if they can come in your home and search, you should always request to see a search warrant and indicate to them that you are not consenting to a search. They may search anyway. If that happens to you, bear in mind that resisting a police officer can get you hurt and can lead to felony charges. Again, your default position needs to be, I do not consent to a search, I'd like to see a search warrant, and I'm not resisting anything. You need to preserve your rights. If you allow an officer to search you by saying something like, it's okay if you search, I have nothing to hide, go ahead and search, then the officer always has authority to search. And police are very good at finding things and making them look incriminating later on.
when Alexander saw the breadth of his domain, he wept, for there were no more worlds to conquer. Benefits of a classical education.
The Evergreen State College, Tacoma Campus, March 12, 2022. To whom it may concern. From Peter Baccio, J.D., LLM. Regarding George Hoyt, TCC student. George Hoyt, my former student at the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus, has asked me for a letter of support for financial assistance in order to continue in his academic program. I do so gladly. I have had him in an array of classes during his time at the Tacoma campus. I was also his advisor and know his work well. As a student, George was outstanding, gifted, and focused. His questions and comments on issues ranging from law, politics, history, literature, and public policy demonstrated careful preparation for each class discussion. He is a mature, dedicated, and highly focused adult learner. He was a meticulous researcher and a strong writer. He demonstrated sophisticated critical thinking skills. He is capable of analyzing government policies and assessing their impact, especially on our most vulnerable populations. In other areas, he always listened carefully and collaborated very effectively with others, a key in the academic, political, and professional realms. During group project work, he was patient with his fellow students and thoughtful. Other students valued his contributions and enjoyed working with him. In short, he is an empathetic person, concerned about the direction of our nation and the obvious burdens faced by other Americans, especially people in the margins. He is determined to make a difference. He was thriving at the Tacoma campus, working effectively in diverse groups and producing excellent outcomes. I fully support George's goal of procuring enough assistance to complete his academic goals at TCC. He is a talented student with great potential. Please feel free to contact me Batchup at Evergreen. EDU if you have further questions.